Ooh. What is up, everybody? We're at the scene of another long run here. A week has passed since my last long run video. Today is March 29th here, so just over 3 weeks till Boston. Pretty much 22 days. Again, 3 weeks plus the Monday here with the race is actually on. But today we have another long run here. I thought maybe my last long run would be kind of the last major sort of workout-oriented sort of long run. But today we actually have it closer to what a marathon simulation would be like. So today's workout's going to be only 2 hours and 15 minutes in duration, but it'll be about a 30-minute build, and then 30-minute build, then about 5 miles at about 6-minute pace, then have a 1 mile break, and we're going to have 7 miles at about 5:40 to 5:45. So again, even within a singular marathon simulation workout, the pace does change throughout. You get a short break there. I know some other plans might have really just long stretches of that sort of goal marathon pace. I mean, I've had that before in the Hanson's method where, you know, the Thursday would kind of build up to 6 to 7 to 8 to 10 miles at a marathon pace, but that's just kind of in a singular run. So there's not much long run stimulus, I might say, or that fatigue right there. Just kind of pure marathon miles, which can be a good stimulus, but it can be even better or just improved upon with certain different changes throughout the run or implementing it within your long runs here. So again, I got about 2 hour and 15-minute run here to do that all within only about 12 miles at a marathon pace, or well, the 7 or slightly quicker than what my goal pace would be. So just a bit of a pace shift there. So again, just a bit of tempo, kind of that pace you might hold once you get nice and warmed up, especially at those first 5 miles at 6-minute pace. All right, let's get ready to get started here. Got the watch ready. Let's get ready for this long run. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, we got a 30-minute warm up here. Got my fuel with me. Today we're using the Endorphin Elite 2s. Since last week I used the Audios Pro 4s. So we're gonna give the Endorphin Elite 2s a shot here. And of course, some people like to think, or at least feel like the Endorphin Elite is a touch unstable. I'm gonna have to agree at just sort of these easier paces. So this sort of easy minute build, or this easy 30-minute build, isn't gonna be the most comfortable, I'd say. I mean, it's a good shoe. It's soft, right? So it's comfortable in that regard. But once we get going on those paces, the shoe works pretty well. And of course, this is coming from a guy who ran mostly in the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4 for a lot of his races. So having this softer race shoe, like this or the Audios Pro 4, was a big difference, a big jump. I was like, I actually kind of like softer shoes for kind of those racing shoes. And I used to think I was only ever going to be a firm shoe guy, but I'm like, wow, it's actually felt pretty comfortable when I used either of these shoes on some runs last week, testing them out. All right, we're about 17 minutes in. Just what I was talking about earlier. That's an extra Huma in between the Yukins and Martins, so we're taking an item every 20 minutes instead of every 30 minutes. So I'm gonna have to start getting this Martin ready here. All right, I'm gonna open it up. Oh man. Chowing down now
first 20 minutes. Don't know if I'm gonna be able to record the other 20 minutes like this. I'm running at 6-minute pace or 5:45, so stay for this.
With every long run this week that worked out this block, I have my fuel here. Whew.
Yummy.
Oh, let's see, what do we got here? So I got 2 UCANs for each hour. I got 2 Martins for the 30 minutes within those hours. But I have 2 Humas here that I might take in between the Martins and UCANs, just because I was kind of watching yesterday a video from David Roach about just high carb fueling and just kind of changing how much you might take an hour based on the effort here. So we have a bit of higher effort here within 30 minutes of that 30 minutes of those 5 miles, and then about that 45 minutes of that 7 miles, or 40 to 50 minutes there. So I figured, why not try and get another, let's see, how much does it have? Getting another 24 grams of carbs. Of course, Huma is a bit more sugar based than some like the UCANs, but just something a bit more immediate to kind of get the brain going every once in a while, or before that full hour mark for the 2 hours plus of running here. Of course, within an hour, I would have taken a UCAN at the start of an hour, and then a Martin 30 minutes in, and that end of that hour, another UCAN. So technically, within an hour, I'm still getting, let's see 19, 25, and 19, so roughly about 63, 64 grams of carbs, which is pretty good. And of course, the UCANs are kind of that slower burning, starchy one. Of course, at a different hour, you might have 2 Martins and a UCAN, in which case it would be about closer to 70. So it's a good amount of carbs per hour, but just adding that extra sort of 20 to 25 here, push up to that 90 grams mark, would be pretty good as well, especially with this sort of effort here. So I'm just kind of changing it up and just doing a little bit of experimenting, but I definitely probably won't do the Humas within Boston, or maybe I will. I don't know. I wonder how much calories I really need to replace. The math can be all over the place a little bit, which is based on how hard actual marathon effort is. So, but it'll be fun to just try Humas. I like Humas, so I might as well enjoy a little bit of that, and kind of change up the monotony of the Martin taste.
Yeah, we're gonna have some tailwind. We're gonna get some tailwind on the way back. Yeah, buddy. Give me that north wind. All right, got about 70 seconds here for the start of the 5 mile. All good, all good. You're warmed up. About 10 minutes into that, 40 minutes in, let's take that Huma. Definitely won't be able to record that. I just gotta take care not to go too fast either. Just keep it 6-minute pace.
But another interesting thing about this long run here is that throughout this block, I've kind of thought to myself, like, yeah, we're not really having those super long stretches of marathon pace anymore, like the 10 milers on those Thursdays with the Hansons.
About 20 seconds here. At the top of this hill, at least.
And I've kind of seen other examples of that from just other people giving advice on the internet, or other kind of workout videos I've seen people do. I've seen some, a couple months ago, like some graphics from Joanna or Supwell, where he kind of talked about recommending the 16-mile sort of marathon simulation, or marathon effort sort of simulation. That's a lot of miles at that effort there, and for a good bit of people, that's probably about 2 hours of running at that sort of pace. Now, of course, a bad faith interpretation could be to just do those 16 miles at your goal marathon pace, which again is a lot. I'm only doing about 12 today, but 16 seems like a lot to recover from. And of course, your goal pace throughout a block can shift towards what your wanting to do, because your fitness isn't necessarily there yet, even after over halfway through the block. So your actual marathon effort, as opposed to your goal pace, will be different. You know, you want that marathon effort to eventually line up with that goal pace, given that you've done the block correctly and that you're actually at that level to, you know, taper off and actually achieve that time there. Because of course, throughout a training block, you're not always able to just hit that goal pace for that marathon. That's obviously what the point of the block is, of the sharpening, the building, and then the tapering. So doing those 16 miles at that pace can be pretty tough for an athlete. I'm assuming, again, this isn't a bad, you know, in a better faith interpretation of that, you know, this would be kind of those last few remaining long runs you do, rather than something you might do regularly, or, you know, twice a month or every 2 weeks, even during a base phase. So again, 60 miles is a lot to kind of recommend to somebody. And in another video, I watched a 40 runs video with one of his sort of longer run workout sessions. Now, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was, I think, a good bit of miles at a sort of marathon goal pace, at least over like 12, I believe. And of course, he managed to do most of it. I think he was pretty stressed by the end, or just kind of a little bit disappointed a tad, just because of how hard that kind of felt. And again, that just sort of shows the kind of sort of risk inherent in kind of doing those really long, hard runs as training runs, just within the middle of the blocks here. Not in the middle, but of course he has a couple more weeks till London than me for Boston. But again, those runs can be kind of risky in the sense that people might put a lot of weight on those kinds of runs, whereas they might not put as much weight on the other kind of great workouts they might have had, or just the general mileage they might have built. So again, despite maybe all the advice online about people saying, you know, one run or one workout, one race doesn't really make or break, you know, an athlete or a block, a lot of people do end up falling for that sort of, oh, if I mess up this super intense long run that generally I wouldn't necessarily recommend, a lot of people do. They kind of see it as like, oh no, the block isn't working. Why am I failing? Or why is this not working out for me here? So again, there are a lot of other good days to kind of look towards, and not just this one workout, despite, you know, what people say. But again, it's a pretty risky sort of workout to take on. I kind of liken that, or I have those two examples kind of opposed to what I've seen athletes like, you know, Connor Mance or Clayton Young do, or just that whole group over there in Utah. Of course, they're professional athletes. They have a different sort of training method and philosophy there, just based on their athletic history. But I've seen some of their documentaries, or Clayton's documentary series, where he did about a 8-mile projected marathon pace workout. And so I thought, oh, so they only went up to about 8 or 9 miles at that sort of actual purely marathon effort, or paced in a row within a block. But really, those projected marathon pace days could actually go up to 8, 10, or 12 that I learned recently. So again, 12 miles is like, you know, a bit less than a half marathon. Seems like a bit of that magic number where you can get a good bit of effort in at that marathon effort or goal pace, whichever one you feel closer towards. But it's definitely not up to 16 or, you know, roughly 2 hours of a marathon simulation. So you can still get that practice in with the sort of easy, or the break in between, or the cool down after, just all that duration and time on feet still contributes towards building that marathon strength. But again, today I might be slightly eating my words here, because I'm going to be doing about 12 miles. Of course, it is broken up by a 1 mile break here, but it's something that I didn't necessarily expect to see today on my little training calendar with my coach. But this would be a great little workout, just purely trying to, you know, simulate the locking into a specific pace here. So again, those first 5 miles at that 6-minute pace, just kind of lock in. It's not going to be the hardest thing, I don't anticipate. Then we have a nice 1 mile break. Then we're going to get into that tempo mode, 540 to 545 at that 7 miles. So it'll be kind of nice here. The conditions are pretty great. It's kind of warming up slightly. Again, I waited till about 8. It's about 8:15 right now, 8:20. So can't wait too much longer before I end up being late for work again. But so yeah, catch y'all out there on the... About 90 seconds left. All right, just finished that segment. Try not to feel super exhausted, but you know, it is 6.5 pace. Get that breathing going. Get the legs pumped. I got 1 mile easy.
be able to make it to my car, or I can take just 30 seconds to a minute just to sip some water and then get back on the remaining part of the easy mile, and then we'll go back out again for the 7 miles at 5:45. So catch you out the car. Ooh, feeling good, feeling good. Oh, I had to take my UCAN too. Actually, it's about an hour in now. Let's do this. All right, the strawberry banana UCAN. Bottoms up. Give myself about 40 seconds here. Just gonna get a quick sip, throw some trash down. And we'll get back to running again. 7, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. Let's go. All right. Give me another minute here. Not too bad, not too bad. I'm gonna go out and back again. Out to 5, come back into the 2 miles. That'll get us to 7 mile, 5:45. 30 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. All right, 5:45. All right, just finished that run now. My camera kind of died, so the Insta360 camera only has about 40 minutes of standalone recording without the pod. And then I kind of tried to pause and unpause, not record the entire time or super long segments, where I kind of try to keep the camera turned on or like on standby, where I probably should just let it turn off and kind of be a little more selective, because it kind of died during about halfway through the 7 mile portion. But anyway, took the fuel at about the scheduled time during the run here, and got a little warmer towards the second half. But again, that first 5 miles was pretty good. Warmed up, took a mile easy, and then got into the 7 mile sort of like tempo-y sort of deal, close to my half marathon pace pretty much. So hovered around about 5:40 to 5:38. So I went a little quicker, a couple seconds, but again, it was only 7 miles. I was feeling pretty good. I had the Endorphin Elite 2s on, which worked really well. Super comfortable, super soft, and pretty pleasant even at those harder paces. So it's a pretty good shoe. So I'm not sure. I'm a little torn between that and the Adios Pro 4. But anyway, back to the long run here. So I finished up 2.5 hours. Average pace around about 6:13 for the entire thing. Although I do have a couple extra minute or two of a lap space because I had to use the bathroom kind of immediately after I finished the 7 mile segment. So I just kind of dumped a little bit of the stuff out from the bowel movements for about 2 minutes there in the restroom, just real quick. And then got back here to the car, dropped off my camera, and just ran about 15 more minutes of easy just to kind of get that time on feet there. But again, in terms of the long run here, it's pretty good. I think, you build a lot of strength from these sorts of long runs and confidence with the right kind of long run and right kind of effort here. I know I was kind of critical of some long runs and some sorts of workouts at the beginning of the video, but again, I have to also realize that these sorts of long runs are super valuable, and the split is probably 40-60 when it comes to like building marathon fitness. Like, I think you probably get more benefit from the long runs, whereas the workouts you do are kind of building these sort of systems around being able to sustain that effort around marathon pace. And these long runs are kind of all about that endurance and strength. So again, very important stuff here that I've talked about before when I talked about my coach's philosophy and training method here in that video before. But again, with the right kind of long run here, like today, I only had about 12 miles of working effort. And again, 6-minute pace isn't the hardest thing in the world for me. But again, that 7 mile effort was a bit tougher, a bit more effort involved. So the heart rate got a little bit higher there. But again, still kept it very comfortable. I didn't have to force myself. Again, like some workouts might figure, some people might advise, that 16 mile out marathon effort or pace. Maybe 16 miles at that, again, like I talked about before, marathon effort rather than your goal pace is a better way to do that sort of workout here. But again, I wanted to actually kind of work at some paces here. So again, 6 flat is kind of what I ideally want my marathon pace to be. And I just did a couple bits of 7 miles at about half marathon pace. So a good bit of strength there overall, and then just a bit more time on feet. But pretty worthwhile workout, I think. Felt pretty strong throughout, and again, kept the effort, kept the pop in my legs throughout the last 15 minutes of easy. But I'm gonna quit yapping now because I'm about to be late for work here, so I need as much time as possible to get home and clean up a little bit and then get to work here. But we'll definitely talk a little bit more after my short shift here this Sunday.